At Men's Forum, I'm Matt, FarmHopLife. This is episode 50, Where the Buffalo Roam. And tonight, we just have Grant, Homestead of Pain. How's it going,
Yes,
Grant?
going pretty good tonight. How are you?
Good. We're late because I was just finishing up dinner. I'm working out of town. So, uh, oh, here I am, late. But still going to do this. So, I'm surprised. We haven't seen Scott on here in like over a month.
Yeah, I know.
It's weird. Like he's mad at me or something like that.
Is he?
I don't know. Maybe he's just like thriving the road less traveled. This I don't know. Not sure. But yeah, I did a TikTok live with Jeremy on Friday night. That was kind of cool.
I wasn't invited.
It was kind of like impromptu, like last minute, like hey, let's jump on a TikTok live, and I was like, all right. So, what were you doing Friday night?
I don't think I was doing anything Friday. Um, yeah,
Maybe the next one we'll tag you. We'll
yeah.
get you involved.
I'll get on live anytime.
All right. I'll tell that to Jeremy.
He
So
should already know that.
maybe it's because he keeps saying that you don't care about TikTok.
I still that I don't care. It's I don't know. I have a hard time taking the time to do a video.
It's because you don't care.
Maybe.
Too busy. But yeah, let's roll into personal events. So give me a personal event.
This past weekend was my aunt's wedding, and I brought strawberry infused moonshine. And I had a turkey hatch last night at 2 o'clock in the morning. It was very loud.
It was loud.
Yeah, it was loud. It was chirping so much.
Oh,
It
okay.
sounded like it was 2 or 3. I
I
woke
thought
up
you
with
meant like the hatching itself was loud. I'm like, did the egg like crack open with like a sonic boom? Like, what is that?
that'd be a fun turkey. No, it was just making a whole lot of noise. And then I woke up. I thinking I was gonna have a couple, but I only had one.
Oh, that's weird, right?
Yeah,
Out of 20 or something?
yeah, 3 dozen. About half of them didn't do anything. They just didn't take. But again, I haven't been keeping an eye on it. I just sat it up and left it. I hadn't been
In
checking
the
it at all.
incubator. Isn't it
Yeah,
like right next to you or something like that?
yeah, it's right here.
Gotcha. Well, cool. Do you have a good
Yeah,
time at the wedding?
yeah, it was fun. It's not exactly my forte. It was more of a drinking pool party. So I had a couple, and then we ended up going to my my cousins who had a baby shower. So
Nice. I'm just making sure I have the right settings.
no,
You can hear me now.
a whole lot less. You were good before.
Oh, I was good, and now you can hear me worse?
You're good now.
I'm good now? Okay,
Yeah,
good.
maybe a little loud.
I'm a little loud.
It's fine.
That's what the volume button's for, right? Yeah, like when we jumped on here, you let out the really big burp.
Yes.
I had to turn down my volume. I'm like, apparently that's too loud. Um, for my personal event, I'm gonna give a shout out to my wife. So being out of town, we got baby chicks in the basement. Turns out, like, I don't know what it is, but they're like she's allergic. My mother-in-law's allergic, and I think my son is allergic to something. It could be like the dust or from the pine shavings or something like that in
Well,
there.
the baby. How old are the chicks?
I got them when they were a couple hours old,
How
and
long have you had them?
so 10 days.
Okay. I know that baby chicks can be very dusty if you have them in like a
Sure.
basement or a shed. They'll put an inch of dust on everything.
Damn. So we put them in the basement bathroom, and then just keep the fan on to get like any stink just out of there. I thought
Mm-hmm.
so. Anyways, she she took it upon herself to get them like a different brooder, put it on the deck, and then like get it all set up and everything. She like texted me a couple of pictures, like, is this light too close to the wood chips and da da da. But she handled it like all herself. It was awesome. That's like usually not like her job. So, but she couldn't have
So,
them on the house anymore.
how cold is it for you now?
The other morning it was 40 degrees.
Okay, yeah. So now for me, I can just hatch chicks and just throw them outside without a heater or anything. They can
Yep.
just they can just be.
Yeah, I made a tweet the other day. It was like how to make iced coffee. It was like make a coffee, take a sip, bring it outside with you to do some work, forget about it. Now it's cold. It was pretty tasty. What in the heck was
I
that?
don't know.
Now you're gonna go investigate. Um, the other thing I'll say is I threw up a video about the rock wall I've been working on. It's
Yeah,
done,
good.
finished. So I finished. I put up that video this morning. So people should go check it out.
Um, yeah. So I didn't really understand the exchange you had that brought upon this topic.
Oh, it kind of started off more like tongue in cheek. So we're the Buffalo Roam. Let's see. Oh, not invite. The other one. Present. Share screen. Brave tab. Not notifications. Nope.
Well, you
Wrong
really
one.
finished that rock wall. Did you buy the stone or find the stone?
Oh no, that's all property.
That's awesome.
I am not ready. Thank you. Man, I thought I had it. I must have did it wrong. Okay. Now we can present. Share screen. Tab. This one. Share. Okay. It was tongue in cheek in that like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if? So like it says, my politics are let the bison and elk roam free again. But this time it's Yellowstone National Park rules. It's their home and you're in it. They have the right of way. This came from a guy we interact with a lot on Twitter. I think he's in a couple of our Telegram groups too.
That's what I was just checking. He looks like
Yeah,
just talked to him this morning, and I don't put together who these people are, to be honest.
sure.
Um, okay, yeah, it's the
So
same person. Okay, there we go.
so so this originally came from a tweet based on an interview I did 2 weeks ago, I think now. Do we really need to intervene with livestock as much as we do? Let animals be animals. Blah, blah, blah. Here's an interview with Amber Oaks Ranch, who was on last week, on the men's forum last week. And then Shudra says, your first sentence has another meaning that I'm currently so immersed in that I can barely read it the way you intend. We and livestock need to intervene much, much more than we currently are in order to save the planet. And there's a little bit of like drama in there that I'll pass over. But based on another person who read it the wrong way and like what, anyways. So
So does
that's why
he
I
mean
said,
using livestock to intervene with changing the landscape in a more regenerative way?
yes,
Okay,
that's what he means.
yeah,
So then it got into, all of this. Yellowstone doesn't need intervention since they got the wolves back. And I said, isn't that a form of management? I mean, let's focus on that for a second. Um, so like Yellowstone, they didn't have wolves forever.
yeah. So what I will say about that is I have some very very good friends of mine in Idaho, avid hunters, bow hunters. They've been doing it forever, and she says they've been since they've reintroduced wolves back. they've honestly caused more problems than they fixed. So I would say the letting because we have so much natural intervention as is, since it's a state park, you know, and then having all these lands that are private property, people run cattle through it, you know, however you want to look at that. I think trying to reintroduce something like wolves back into do the management, in my opinion, is stupid. I feel like you could do like sell, tags for a hunt and then use that and just go back into funding for the park instead of just letting it be wolves do their thing.
I would say that they shouldn't have got rid of wolves in the first place, but also
Yeah.
like why would they like pick them up and like put them in there?
And if you look at, if I'm not mistaken, the type of wolves they reintroduced and put back were the wrong type of wolf. It wasn't
Were they really?
I think so. Maybe specifically in the Oregon and Idaho region, they're not the correct type of wolf.
Hmm.
So
It wouldn't surprise me that they would do something like that.
I understand it from a point of conservatory, but considering you removed them from the landscape to begin with, then trying to put
Hmm.
them back into the land, it's not like you're trying to repopulate, the devastated bobwhite quail. They're wolves, people.
Yeah,
you know,
like I think instead of trying to keep them out this whole time, if they wanted to come back into the park, you should let them come back into the park
yeah. I wouldn't try to
on
keep
their
them.
own.
Yeah, trying to bring them in do out through breeding and reintroducing them. I feel like that's a bit much.
Yeah, two wrongs don't make a right.
Yeah, because then you can overdo it, but then who keeps the wolves in check? You know that that's a that becomes out of balance, and I feel like it would be fixed if you had it like here in Georgia. We now have a problem with overpopulation of deer because back like in the
I think
'60s
that's
and '70s.
everywhere.
Well, back in the '60s and '70s, there wasn't any deer in Georgia, and then Martha Berry went out to Texas, and then brought back some for our kind of region in North Georgia. Um, but then you didn't hunt them for a while, and then now there's a whole lot of regulation, and they just gone crazy. And I don't think they've kind of updated, you know, their the hunting regulations to adequately follow um, the population growth because we're seeing a lot of problems with disease in some of them.
Yeah, you see that a lot everywhere.
Yeah, and but I would say specifically like if you're talking about the bison, bringing the wolves back to try to regulate them, in my opinion, is a waste of resources when you can just sell tags for a bison hunt and then use that again as funding. Because who wouldn't want to go on a bison hunt? Who wouldn't pay a couple $100s for a tag? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we need to get the population way like back up before we talk about selling
More.
licenses again.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would think, but even before you add wolves, I think the population of bison should be significantly larger. They're trying to they're trying to bring back the wolves. In my this is how I see it, and then they're going to have to regulate both the wolves and the bison because the
Yeah,
wolves are going to try to overregulate the bison. So now they just leaves you. It goes from regulating the bison to now you're regulating the wolves, and then you may have to do protecting more protection for the bison. So I feel like it's slightly unnecessary.
yeah. I just think about how many bison that like were killed like all at once, right? And for
Oh,
the most part, it was to start about the Native Americans,
oh
right?
yeah, yeah.
So let's get it back. Let's bring those numbers back up to like 10 million plus.
Well, you'll never
Then
get
we
that.
can talk about selling hunting. Right. This is fantasy land, right?
Yeah, but again, that's only if they have a problem regulating the bison. Why bring back the wolves to regulate the bison if there's not enough bison to be regulated? You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
So they could have, even if they only did 10 tags a year, whatever they needed, fixing, they did. They specifically did that. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying everybody gets it. No, I'm just saying, like, if you have a specific number that need to be in check, then do a raffle every year with a specific amount of tags. Um,
Take the sick ones.
the sick ones, the old ones, and then do something with them.
I just like the idea of having people having to stop their cars all the time, especially in like busy areas because bison are in the road. Like so, just yesterday, excuse me, it's open range here. I'm in.
Are you talking about for
I'm in like
cows?
yeah for cows. So like we're on our way back to the hotel, and I had to slam on the brakes because cow just decided to want to cross the road right then and there.
Yeah. It would be cool if you brought that back with bison, but I think when it gets to private property rights and then wildlife, I feel like that's just gonna get messed up. I feel like it's gonna, if you bring back 10 million bison, they have to eat something, you know.
Yeah,
And other than keeping Yellowstone at its capacity for bison and other livestock that live there, it's essentially what they are. They're wildlife game, but if they're managed by Yellowstone, you know,
yeah. Josiah, who's been on the men's forum before a couple times, he said that I'm more of a Genesis. Let me start over. I'm more of a Genesis 126 kind of guy, but I understand the allure of rewilding things. I'd be okay with some bison and buffalo running around near me. And I'm like, what is that? My dog ate Genesis 126. What's it say? He said, then God said, let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals, and all and over all the creatures that move along the ground. I said, yes, let's manage them, but what level of intervention, to the point that they're free or no longer living as animals would? So like,
okay, so what
what?
are you
It's a
what
big
is your
spectrum.
question? It is. So narrow that down to be your question. Are we going to talk about livestock, or are we going to talk about wildlife?
Wildlife.
um I'm not, I don't know a ton about wildlife. So if you want to, let's talk about dove. So dove is a migratory bird. We have a set limit here. Last year, I think was or the year before that was the first year you could hunt at dawn. It had been like that for the last 40 years. So instead of hunting new, you hunt at dawn. So we have a limit here. But say when those migratory birds get to Argentina, they kill them by the tens of thousands. You know what I mean? So they're pests. Because they will cover the skies. Just look up Argentina dove hunt. You don't reload your gun. Someone just hands you a fully loaded one, and a guy next to you reloads that one, and then they just have huge grill outs with all, and they just feed the people there with dove. It
Hmm.
it sounds awesome. Um, but short of that, for me, deer are a huge pest in my opinion, specifically for growing a market vegetable garden or a market
Yep.
farm, anything like that. Even for my landscape or my flowers, just my landscaped yard. You know, when there are $3 standing at the end of the driveway when you pull in, you know, that to me that they're going to be eating my stuff. So that becomes a pest. So I'm just going to eat them all and not tell anybody. So they won't be a pest for me until they learn that don't eat my hostas. You know, they're gonna. That's how I see it. I don't necessarily
Sure.
see it as management. Um, I'm
That's a
not
form of
saying
management.
it is. I'm not saying. But again, if you look at the people, in my opinion, who hunt nowadays versus people who don't, and you look at the expansion of metropolitan areas, you know, where do you do that? because you're driving down at 5 o'clock at night and a deer just walks across the road. You got to stop or you hit it. So I don't really know the answer to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you eaten roadkill?
I have it, but I would.
Depends on how fresh it was, but I would.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah,
Like if it just got hit, like I coming up within like 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes of it getting hit, I'd take it.
yeah. I mean, I would. The only problem would be the quality of the meat because it probably got just hit by a truck.
Yeah, you
I
might have
may,
to throw the
I may,
shoulder away or something.
I just turn it into dog food.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have dogs, but yeah,
Use the bones as in stock and broth. Um,
sure.
make soups. But other
Yeah,
than
you could
that,
do that. So I guess the other one was like elk, right?
mhm.
They used to have elk all the way up. I don't think it was up into Alaska, but it's definitely like up in like Vancouver, all the way down to Georgia, actually.
Yeah,
Like it
yeah.
covered most of the United States. Man, wouldn't it be awesome to see more elk?
I would say absolutely. But say because if you and kind of onto that, like 300-400 years ago, if you look at the landscape, most of the United States, southeastern United States, used to be plains, open fields, like
Yeah,
savanna plains. Then you have your post oak trees here and there, but everything else would just be kind of grasslands in certain areas. Kind of specifically where we are in like northeast Georgia and northwest Alabama, that used to be kind of plains, just right at like the base of the Appalachian Mountains. So there would have even been bison down here,
yeah,
and that'd be cool to see. But I just don't think it'll ever happen unless there's a significant breakdown of everything that prevents,
probably.
you know. But no, yeah, I would. It would be great if you had. I wouldn't even care to hunt them, but just to have them back down here would be cool.
Yeah.
And I
There's
know I feel like
go ahead.
I've seen one a couple months back because it was like 2 to 3 times the size of a normal deer. It was huge.
Yeah, they're huge.
It was.
Where
I'm
did
like,
you what, in Georgia?
yeah, I was dumbfounded. I was
You
sitting in
saw
the
this
back
in
seat.
Georgia?
I was sitting in the back seat. We had the windows down. We were just driving. It was in the middle of the pasture, and I just stopped, and I was dumbfounded. It was huge. It was. I mean, I would say would have been a horse, but it had antlers.
It was a horse.
you know, but it was much larger than any average deer we get here because our deer here don't get that big.
Yeah, they're definitely 3 times the size. I was trying to find there's an elk herd, like just one herd in Colorado. I mean, Colorado has like 300,000 elk or something like that. This one herd is has like 20,000 elk in it. Isn't that nuts?
See, if you want to talk about like redistribution of, why don't you just take that elk herd, take 1,000, take 1,000 elk, get a ratio of, you know, bucks and does, and then just turn them loose in a different state.
Bulls and cows.
Bulls and cows is out there for elk.
Yeah.
So, you know, why don't they just do that? That seems really simple to me.
I don't know, because then you're messing with the management, right? So, like, again, so what,
But it's
in order
wildlife.
to get the,
You don't have to manage it. You take it and you throw it out and leave it.
but just by intervening, you're managing.
Oh yeah. I mean, you look at how much we're involved in everything. Look at all the roads and highways we've put up, the thousands of acres that are being cut down for subdivisions. At some point we have to step in and manage.
We should put an elk in every backyard. Just
I
see
mean,
what happens, especially
yeah,
during the rut. Get two bull elk in someone's backyard. Sorry.
I mean, and that's what's funny is, again, my friends in Idaho, they'll post videos all the time of people, going up to pet the elk, and they'll just jack them up.
Oh yeah.
These people, these people, they're stupid. They're city people. I don't know how any other way. They're just ignorant of everything around. Everything with a mouth essentially wants to eat you or not want to be eaten by you. So that they're gonna they're gonna do what they do so that doesn't happen. And
Yeah.
like, but the best ones are the moose videos. It's like
Oh geez.
they're the size of a car. What, they don't want your cracker.
No, they moose definitely wanted to just be like left alone.
Hmm.
And if you don't leave them alone, they'll just mess you up.
Yeah.
There was I got back when I was early 20s. We saw a moose, and I went over like on the other side of these bushes from it. Like the bushes were probably like 12 feet tall or something like that. And it was like munching on the bushes. But it could definitely see me. It definitely knew I was there. I was way too close, and I got very lucky that it just was like, you know what, like this kid, right, and just like stomp on me. That I would, should I not have done that?
I mean, I probably would have done it.
Let's see if I can find that photo. And this is many years ago.
But again, I think there's a fine line between management and over management or intervention. At some point, there needs to be intervention because at some point, either it's gone too far one way or too far the other way. So but because there are so many ecosystems that have been completely off balance by so many different, hunting events over the last 500 years, 1,000 years. In the United States, like the United States, like 12,000 years ago, used to have all kinds of megafauna. We'd have like
Yeah.
four different
What
types.
happened?
We had four different types of elephants, giant sloths, huge, bears. Well, essentially, a gigantic mega flood. It just killed everything.
Oh, sure.
Um, and then clean it out.
Can't find the photo. Yeah, it would be nice if we had all that megafauna.
It wouldn't
But
be. I don't know, but see, like again, what we probably it probably would have all got hunted anyway. You know what I mean?
yeah, that is true. I was just thinking about like, well, we did have a bunch of megafauna and then we killed it all.
Yeah, but see, the megafauna we had was dwarfed compared to the other thing. We had four different types of elephants. You know, we had
In
like
North America?
in North America, like the same type of megafauna you see in Africa, we had over here 12,000 years ago.
I always like that picture of like the ancient bison. Have you
Yeah,
seen this?
I think so.
It's like 50% bigger than
Mhm.
the American bison today.
Yeah,
It's massive. It's
yeah.
awesome.
And so I still think that even if the North America wasn't flooded 11,500 years ago, we would have still hunted everything. I mean,
That's true.
like our government is the worst proponent of this. They slaughtered all the bison I mean,
That is
because
true. They
start making
mandated that,
money.
right? That was their choice. It wasn't because
It
they
wasn't the
made
people.
it was
It
the
wasn't the
it was
people.
the
You see,
U.S. military that
yeah,
was made to do it, right?
yeah. And then you can get into like the fur trades and everything like that. You look in Africa, you have the ivory trade, all those things. Would they have even still been here? Probably not.
Would what have still been here?
The gigantic megafauna we had.
Oh, you don't. Even if we didn't kill it all, you're wondering if it would still be here.
Yeah, I don't. I think even if it didn't flood, everything would still have been killed off at some point. Because
Yeah, maybe.
as the development of the you had the colonies and as the development of the nation afterward, spanning west, there was a lot of development and a lot of use of grasslands turned to croplands. And there would just be not enough forage for elephants and gigantic sloths that are 12, 14 feet tall. There wouldn't be enough forage for them. There wouldn't be enough for them to eat as the whole nation, specifically now, as it's been developed. We might have a handful of groups of them all across the West, but other than in zoos, I don't think we would have them. I don't. The competition for food would have been too great as development expanded.
It is true.
Because if like the bison were twice as big, and the only ones that left were it was the smaller ones that needed less food, smaller fauna. They could subsist off smaller vegetation instead of the greater that we had larger vegetation. If that makes sense.
Well, but everything manages itself at some point. So the bison that were the big ones, right? The massive ones. I forget the name. There must have been at some point like there was enough. There was enough for them to
Yeah,
sustain themselves. And then, if in times of like let's say a drought or a flooding, so it's either too much water, too little water, some of them would die,
yeah.
right? Just
But
from
then
starvation.
yes, but we had mostly all of that was wiped out, and then I guess whatever smaller pockets that didn't were the ones that kind of came back and bounced back population wise. That's probably why they're so small now.
Sure, the genetics of the smaller ones
Yeah,
took off
exactly.
over the
Just
larger ones. Yeah, I can
yeah,
see that. Yeah.
and then again, the large ones. That's the thing. Larger animals require the same amount, if not more amounts of food to sustain themselves. So again, like I had said, even if all we had all those things, like all our, because North America had like its own saber-toothed tigers and its own saber-toothed
Yeah.
cats and everything. Even then, well, those say I guarantee you all those would have been hunted out because that's threat to livestock. I mean, the English would have probably gotten rid of all those when they started the colonies, and then on top of that, the Native Americans would have, I think they would have been able to just scalp off the top, essentially, like they did for a long time.
Right.
But again, as we developed the country and all the land, the prairie, and everything became subdivision after subdivision after farmland. I just don't, there wouldn't have been enough food to maintain it. And I feel like they would have spindled fast.
There's a lot of crossover of like the same ideas could be applied to people. It's kind of scary.
Yeah. Anything specific?
Um, I mean, everyone's talking about how, you know, can't feed the world type of thing, too many people, just that. Now there's like this latest, it seems like a troll of having stir fry rocks. Have you seen this?
I have. I have. I don't know if it's I've seen a couple comments. I don't know if it's more of a just a way to get vitamins and minerals from cooking the rocks or what. But it's $2 for a bowl of cooked rocks in spices and
Yeah, and you
sauce.
don't like swallow the rock.
You
You
just
just
you
like
just
get
you literally suck the
you spit
juices
it out
off
like
the rock.
yeah.
You spit
You
it
spit
out,
it out
and they probably
like a
recook
seed.
it, and they recook it to me like 5 minutes later.
I guess you could burn off any germs. Yeah, cook off any germs.
I don't know if that's a cultural thing for that specific region. Like they just had to learn to eat rocks because they had no food. It's in Asia, of course.
Yeah,
So I don't know.
I wonder. I guess you bring up a good question. Like, is this new, or are we just now hearing about this?
I doubt it's new. They've probably
I
been
mean, like,
starving in that region for a very long time, and it just
sure.
became a cultural thing.
I mean, think about how many people found out about bat soup at the start of coronavirus, right?
Well, I think a whole lot of people like really dove into the whole idea of a wet market when that happened. Penguins, apes, dogs, any animal you think of at a wet market, or where sometimes it is skinned alive, and then you kill it. It's horrifying. But I mean, penguins into like primates. Why would you eat that? For what novelty? And it's just it's like a black market meat market.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
crazy.
that'd be wild to
Like,
see.
why would you want to eat bats? you know, and yeah,
I think you'd need to eat a lot of them,
I got into a
depending on the
lot.
bat, I guess.
I ended up watching a lot of videos on wet markets, like the actual video and footage from wet markets when COVID happened, and it's just animals in extremely terrible conditions.
Sure.
Literally, the treatment is awful. Just terrible. I can't even put into words.
I back to wildlife management, but about bats. I was listening to this podcast about this guy that has been like a bat researcher for like 40 years or more now.
Mhm.
And bats, I can't remember why bats has gotten such a bad rap. I don't remember what he said, like
Probably
how it got
vampire meat.
started. Maybe.
I mean, bats are kind of awesome.
Yeah. So this guy, he like totally bat pilled me. Like I'm like big fan of bats now. Like I want to build a bat house and put it around my property. But anyway, so this guy, he was telling me that bats has got such a bad rap that there are people that go out and just like deliberately like kill an entire cave of bats. And what they do is they go take a tire, bring it to the entrance of the cave, throw gasoline on it, burn it, and then all those toxic fumes get in
throw
the
them out.
cave, and then just all the bats just drop dead to the floor.
I hate that. That's just ignorance at its peak,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
that's awful.
So I guess where are you thinking we should go from here?
Well, we didn't really cover livestock maintenance and livestock intervention, which I'm very against. Any really much that is the type of bat I sent it in the chat if you want to pull it up. That is basically the size of bat house I want to build. It's basically a bedroom on stilts.
Jeez, I'm gonna share this.
Yeah.
You know you can do this too, right?
What do you mean?
You can
I can ask to share things.
there. This is what Grant wants to build. It's like the top of a house on stilts.
Basically, that's what it is.
I'd say that's pretty good wildlife management.
It's a bat barn, basically.
Encouraging encouraging bass to stay there.
But for me, I would want a trap door at the bottom. So like every 6 months, you clean it out. You can harvest the bat guano as fertilizer. You don't even there's no input in the bats. You don't have to feed them anything. You don't nothing.
Sure.
It's just free manure. It's a free manure crop.
Could you just like have the bottom at an angle and just like spray the one side with water so it kind of like washes down like a trough and
I
Catch it
haven't
in an IBC tote.
I haven't thought that through, but no, that's essentially what I want to do is use it for, you know, everything I want on the farm. I want it to be a self-sustaining circle, and I want to try to keep as much fertility in my soil as possible. And getting that from exterior, eh, ways is more like chop and drop.
Sure.
You can do that with canna lilies specifically. Great chop and drop mulch, as much to keep and maintain soil health and productivity for an infinite amount of time. And having bat houses is a way to give your soil an extra boost that you usually wouldn't have had it. Whether you use it as a compost tea, you just spread it over everything. I feel like it'd be great. I'd love to try it.
You kind of bring up something interesting, like trying to do wildlife management for the homestead.
Yeah.
So what I considered for a while was uh, where we used to get our chicken feed from. They have like 200 rabbits just running around their property, and I was gonna take like, I don't know, 25 of them and just like let them go on my property.
Yeah.
And they can figure out their little dens and whatnot. And if we needed something to eat, just harvest them.
So
And then
just
they'd poop all over
recently,
the property.
I wouldn't. I don't really want them to do it all over the property. I want it to be contained, so I can
Sure.
then harvest the fecal material and then spread it where I want it. That's why I got rabbits. I ended up getting 4 rabbits. They are Tennessee redback and then Florida cottontail mixes. They look like wild rabbits. So if I wanted to breed, get 3 kits for my does, they're old enough to throw them out in the yard. Then I could do that. I could spike the rabbit population. Do I want to? I don't know. Will all those dozens of rabbits end up in my garden and my market crop? Probably eventually. I just figured having them in like colonies. You could have a couple different rabbit colonies, and then scrape out the inside and harvest that. You can add organic material to it. You can essentially forage all of your rabbit's food,
Yeah.
all of it, specifically during spring and summer. And if you take that forward thought to like your greens, like in like your Swiss chard, and maybe sun dry that out in the sun, get leaves. You can essentially make your own hay for them. But also in fall and spring or fall and a little bit in the winter, you can still grow greens. You can just grow their food all year round with minimal input. Like mimosa trees. Mimosa trees, their leaves are great for rabbits. They love them, and they're
Hmm.
very high in protein.
There's a guy I've been thinking about getting on the podcast just because of how he does deer management for his property. So he's in Iowa,
Mm-hmm.
and he's got like this whole company that sells like protein shakes and stuff. It's pretty good. I buy a bunch of it. But what he really likes to do is go bow hunting, and he bow hunts everything all over the world. But where he's at in Iowa, he'll take like a skid steer and do this and that, shape the property like this or that, plant over here, plant over there, put a ground blind here, put a ground blind there, camera, and he just tags these monster bucks like every year based on this like this setup that he's got on his property. And like it'd be interesting to know how he does that, how he encourages the deer to come there every year.
I mean, that's interesting to know. I don't have any desire to hunt deer. I wouldn't want to set them up to come to my property. I would want them to stay away because I intend to just have all of it used for something specific. And they don't really have any room in my plan because I don't want them to eat everything.
I mean, if you're planning shouldn't you plan for wildlife to be a part of your system if it's a good
Oh,
system?
I mean, you could, but most of the system is just going to be leave it. You just develop it, and maybe once it's developed, yes, sure, I don't care. But during those early development stages, a deer could come through and strip a peach tree
Yeah, that's
and
why I fenced all mine off.
over. Yeah, you can fence them off, um, but that's going to be. But even when you start getting into planting your landscape specifically with beneficial plants that are but like native and stuff like that, I don't really want them to kind of get in the way because they're getting in my way. It's different. I'm looking for to just grow it and establish it, and I just assume because to me they're a pest as a market gardener and a even like it's just unnecessary fencing to keep them away. If you can fence off your perimeter, they can stay away. You you know, and that might be a little bit too harsh of an opinion or mindset to have. It's just I I would rather have more small game, like again rabbits, squirrels, and quail, than things like deer.
Hmm. Yeah, so I like having deer around sometimes. Depends on what they're getting into. Like
Exactly.
last last year when they were getting into my chicken feed, they jumped the fence and were eating right out of the chicken feeder. Didn't care that I threw rocks and hit them both right in the head. Um, they came back, and then so I had to figure out something else. And then, but I'm also kind of in the wrong like district or zone
Yeah, we
for
talked about that
getting.
before.
Yeah,
So I don't have a problem with deer. It's I don't want deer where I don't want deer, and if I see them
yeah,
there, I'm going to eat them there.
yep.
Essentially, if I have a blueberry patch or a strawberry patch that I have fenced off and I have segmented, they're in it. Well, I'm gonna eat it.
Yeah.
If they're in my peony patch, I'm not investing a significant amount of money in a peony patch for them to come through and just disturb it. Same thing goes for wild hogs. It's a no tolerance policy because I understand it's wildlife, and I don't have no problem putting up deer feeders, in more remote parts of the property. But again, so we get my great grandmother's place. That's 13 acres. That's 13 acres. That's going to be full of. It's going to be individual paddocks rotating goats, sheep, cows, pigs, and chickens through, pretty much all year round. So
Hmm.
there's not going to be any room for deer in that. There's plenty of other land around that we don't use that they can stay in. I just for what I have specifically, I don't want to invite them in. They're gonna
I
be
guess
their deer.
make area that you don't care about more attractive to the deer than where you are.
Yeah, as long as they're not really around the house or in my production, I don't care. I just don't want to invite more than there already will be.
Yeah,
I guess
that's
that's the
true.
proper way to word that.
I've thought about it'd be kind of funny, and I'd get in a lot of trouble. But I thought about getting a bunch of like guinea hens and letting them go into the woods to eat all the ticks,
Do it.
and then
Do it. Who's gonna stop you? Get 100 of them. Let them go.
a
Who's gonna stop you?
game warden or something probably. Like
Look at your county.
I don't think you could do that.
You know, look at your county laws. If there's nothing against it, then nobody's gonna know. How, nobody's gonna know.
The other thing I'd like to do
But would
would
they
be
live through the winter?
I don't know. See, the winter might just take care of it.
But that's a lot of issue you can do. Like for me, we had a really bad problem with fleas, and I just ordered 50,000 ladybugs, and then they took care of our flea problem in 2 days. Not a single flea left anywhere.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I didn't know
How much?
ladybugs
How much?
came
How
from.
much are 50,000 ladybugs? How much is that?
So I bought them in late summer. So I got about 1,500 for $1.50. So then I just ended up buying 50,000. It was like $45.
No way.
Yeah,
That's
it was
crazy.
it was crazy because when you let go of 50,000 ladybugs, it's 50,000 ladybugs.
Do you have video of this?
No,
What?
yeah, I did this before I even met you.
Well, you were taking pictures before you met me too.
Yeah, I didn't video anything. I'll probably do it again
Dang.
this year. But again, it was so bad. I walked outside in the back pen, and I stood and counted. There was 400 fleas on each leg. It was a ridiculous. It was insane.
Where are all
It
these
was
fleas coming from?
I don't know.
Why are you bringing
Probably
fleas home?
they were just there. It was in like the back pen where the dogs stay, and it's like an acre. I'm just like, we cut the
That's
grass.
gross.
We spray. It was awful. It was disgusting. We sprayed we tried. Nothing worked. We tried to spray the ground, treat the ground. Nothing. Not a
Hmm.
thing. 50,000 ladybugs did it, and we don't have that problem this year. I got there this year. I haven't seen a single flea on my leg or fell one bite.
Good.
It's awesome.
I thought about similar to the guinea hens and the rabbits. I thought about getting a bunch of pheasants and just
I
like
want to do
letting them
that,
go.
but see
But
that.
they're considered wild game, and so you need like a game license or something like that.
Yeah,
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 I
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. Ignore all that shit. So for me, but Georgia used to have a ton of Bob White quail. So I fully intend to, whenever I get to where I'm going, hatch out like 1 or 200 Bob White quail every year, and just throw them outside. Take them, and just drop them, all of them in a spot. I don't care what happens to them. I'm either feeding something or
Yeah,
who is gonna stop you? You're in Montana. If
yeah.
you're breeding and hatching out 2, 3 dozen pheasants, it's a native breed pheasant, and releasing them, nobody's gonna stop you because nobody's gonna know. You
But I'm
know,
gonna have to talk about it. Like, guys,
you can talk about it, but then
that's for
just
the
say,
after show.
yeah. But just say you've been feeding pheasants and you've had a boom in your pheasant population locally. Just you can word it differently.
I mean, they're just wild chickens.
I think it's ridiculous the amount of regulation there is on something like that.
Yep.
The amount of if you're taking conservatory into your own hands, just do it. Okay, there was a story somewhere. I don't know if it was here or just on Facebook. This lady was feeding deer meth,
I think
and
I heard
these
about this.
these deer on meth were going out and just raiding trash cans and then bringing like stuff back to this lady supposedly, and then she turn around and sell it and then feed them more meth.
I
And I'm
think I did
like,
hear about that. That's awesome.
that's not exactly wildlife management, um, but who cares? Who cares if we have deer on meth? We have just tons of other bigger problems. But I want to get
Like cocaine
into,
bear.
yeah, that even cocaine bears are fine. We have other problems. Um, but I want to get into people's intervention when it comes to livestock. I think people get way too involved in their livestock for no reason. You want get a breed.
I. They're also very sensitive about it too.
Oh my gosh, yes. I'm
Let me
sorry.
see if I can find it.
I'm not giving a chicken a bath. I can go buy a new
Do
chicken.
people give chickens baths?
If they have if they have something, I forgot what it is. If they have like clogged up something.
Oh, I have done that. I did hot water and Epsom salt because there was like some weird something or other. It ended up being water belly, which there is no treatment apparently.
Yeah.
And so like
See,
I do minimal intervention. So like I'm gonna help it along,
very minimal intervention.
and if it can survive, cool. But like
It's a
Jeremy,
chicken.
we'll talk shit about him because he's not here, and
Well, see, that's
he,
his pet. That's not
it
livestock.
it
At a
it
certain
was like a
point,
pet,
at
yeah.
a certain point, livestock goes from pet, it goes from livestock to pet. But for me, you have all these people who are getting into chickens. I'm like, it's a damn chicken. I'm sorry, eat it. If it's acting weird for
Eat it.
you, eat it. Hatch out some chicks next year. You know, I don't understand. Like, a lady I do some yard report took hers to the vet. Why
No,
would you
she
take a
didn't.
chicken to a vet? Eat it.
I'm looking
Finish something.
for dude. I had a tweet and I thought I was being funny, but apparently it was very like controversial. Um, about what is and is not a chicken tractor. Where
Okay.
where is it
I
now?
would know for sure. I will have a definite answer for you on what it is not a chicken tractor.
Man,
And
this
did you have
is
an example?
yeah, I'm gonna show you right now. Found it.
Please do.
All right, let's see. Go back here. Present, share screen. Okay, here. Is this a chicken tractor? Yes or no?
No,
Why not?
it's just not.
Okay. Can you tell me why?
Yes, it's a circle of wire. It's got no. Listen, it has no structure. It has no any sort of foundation. So
That is
say
not a requirement for a chicken tractor. You just have chickens contained in an area that you can move. That's a chicken tractor.
no, that's a temporary pin. If you were to put
So
that on put a cut up 2x4s and frame it at the bottom, yeah, that's I just don't believe that's a chicken tractor.
borderline cruel, I was told.
I mean,
No,
they have grass. It's not like they're starving or nothing.
it's cruel.
I don't think
Padre
it's
allows it.
I don't think it's a chicken tractor. I just don't. It's just a temporary pin.
Chicken prison, Agora said. It's it's a chicken tractor.
I disagree.
Well, anyways, that's my minimalist livestock management. That's how I do things. Actually, just let him go. I did it. I did that because there were some weeds right there, and I wanted them to eat the weeds.
Yeah.
Well, they just sat on the weeds instead. They didn't eat
You,
any of it.
well, you should have left them there for 2 or 3 days. Give them some insect.
Yeah,
Don't feed them. Leave them there for two or
make them
three days.
hungry.
Make them hungry. They'll eat.
Sure.
You're not starving them. You're not beating them into submission. You're just like, look, I'm gonna not feed you this corn. Eat that weed. It's simple. No, I think that's the type of, in my opinion, I would say that's more land management than chicken tractor.
Okay. Sounds good. Um,
But again,
I actually don't. So I used to like to free range my chickens. I don't anymore
no,
because they're they get into everything and they lay eggs where I have to go find
rarely.
them.
Yeah,
I just want to go to the same spot every time.
again,
And because I go get the eggs, they like, well, I'm not laying there anymore. You found my eggs. And so they just change it up every time.
yeah,
I found eggs this spring that were laid last fall. And how do I know that? Because I haven't let them out since last fall.
yeah. I free range my chickens one year, and I had one garden bed. They literally dug about halfway down. It was full. They dug about half of it out. I'm like, I'm young. I haven't tamed my temper yet. I was livid. I threw a rock at this chicken and I literally took its head off. I didn't even expect to hit the chicken. I was just throw it near the chicken scare. Nope, yeah.
That's really funny. What happened to a chicken?
It died. I mean, I hit
Well,
it.
okay, did it run around like without a head?
No, it just flopped around for like just a little bit and then just no more. I ended up throwing
Whoops.
I ended up feeding it to something. I'm just like, I can't let them out anymore because again, like deer,
Yep.
when they're where you don't want them, they're a pest, like a weed. If it's a plant where you don't want it, it's a weed. So
Yeah.
I feed them well, I house them well. And then I had a lady who I do some work for who also has chickens. She thinks like. So for me, I'm simple. They're chickens, people.
Mhm.
They can live outside just fine. I put my chicks outside. I just put them on the ground. When I have a broody hen and I'm hatching inside, and I had a broody hen with 32 chicks one time walking around the yard.
That's so many.
She was a boss, and they were at different stages. This tall, this tall, this tall. Just all different, and she just had them all year. She took care of them. A couple would go missing here or there. That's fine. I didn't have to take care of them. Survival of the fittest. Hands off. Well, when it gets into like cows and goats, so get a breed that is good for your location.
Yeah,
That's good for your climate. And then make sure it gets enough nutrition, minerals, vitamins, everything. You'll be fine. If you have to help it give birth, eat it or sell it. That's a cow you don't want.
Same with sheep, goats, all of it.
A good mother. If it drops a kid in the pasture and walks away, eat it, sell it, get rid of it. People keep those traits in animals and have subsequently lowered the quality of the breeds. Like boar goats.
And they made more work for themselves. That's it.
And they make more work, lose money, lose time. It's people baby their animals. And you see this a lot on like small hobby farms or homesteads. It's like your animals are pampered from head to toe. I mean, if that works for you, that's cool. But in a realistic situation of for me, I'm trying to manage the landscape. Give me 2 seconds.
I was going to say we should wrap up.
Yeah, I'm almost. So with goats, they just need shrub and brush, a shelter, and water. That's it. And then maybe some supplemental vitamins.
Some people would even argue on the shelter.
I do. They don't always need. If you have a good wooded area, they're not going to get wet. They're not going to get that wet. They don't absolutely need shelter if it's just something like rain.
Yeah. Well, cool. That's all I had.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Too busy. I had my phone over all my buttons, so I had to move it. I know, great story. All right, there you go. Grant Payne, Too busy.
Yes.
Homestead of Payne on places. You can find him sometimes.
Pretty much all of them. Yeah. So.
And I'm Matt, FarmHopLife.com. You can check us out. We're a traveling homestead family. We do podcasts, interviews, tours, and this men's farm. And next week, we're going to talk about who cares?
That's a worse topic than today.
You inspired this one, so you better like it. This is all about you.
Give me some more detail. What is who cares?
Who cares? Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. Appreciate it. Bye.